chapter 16, special mediums.
Okay.
Let's read, then I'll talk.
Okay. Okay. Special aptitudes of mediums, 185. Besides the mediumistic categories already enumerated, mediumship offers infinite varieties that include what may be called special mediums, those gifted with still undefined particular aptitudes, apart from the qualities and the knowledge of the manifesting spirit.
Thanks.
Okay.
I think the very first paragraph, Kardec takes the opportunity to say that we know very little, we understand very little, and there is a lot more to be understood and defined in this field of science called spiritism that deals with the interaction between the two planes of existence. I think he quite humble to say that we know something's happening out there that does not fit exactly in the many little boxes that you have presented to you. All those boxes, of course, are didactic, but there is some kind of phenomena happen over there that we can't comfortably put in one other little boxes. We're gonna call those the special mediums.
Mm.
There's a lot of work to be done. There is a lot for us to understand. And as we do not like to put things in boxes, neither does Kardec. But in order to teach as a didactic, we have to create those imaginary boxes, understand that those boxes has to be very flexible, and those definitions and those things that you put in and out of those boxes, you have to be very flexible with those, because there will be cases that doesn't fit in one, doesn't fit in another. What do we do with them? Kardec called them mediums of special aptitude mediums. Basically, that's what this chapter is all about. The ones that doesn't really fit in none of the boxes, those who go beyond what have been presented to us, but it is still are mediumistic phenomena. These are still what we could call mediums.
Okay. Okay. The nature of the resulting communication is always related to the nature of the spirit and bears the stamp of its degree of evolution, its wisdom or its ignorance. But in spite of similarities among spirits of the same degree, on the hierarchical scale, there is undeniably a tendency for each spirit to occupy itself with a particular specialty. Spirits who produce raps, for example, rarely depart from physical manifestations, while among those who provide intelligent manifestations, there are spirits who are poets, musicians, painters, and scholars, moralists, physicians, etc. We are referring to spirits of an average order because in a more elevated degree of the hierarchy, the aptitudes blend into the unity of perfection. However, alongside the aptitude of the spirit itself is the aptitude of the medium and the instrument that may be either more appropriate and flexible or less so, and in which the spirit discovers individual qualities that we cannot always appraise.
Thanks. It's not clear now because quite a bit of information here is already for us to think about it. In mediums in general, not one or not specific kind of mediumship. One and to start over here is that the nature of the result communication is always related to the nature of the spirit and bears the stamp of its degree of evolution, its wisdom or its ignorance. It's obvious, right? If If a very eloquent, very morally elevated spirit provides a communication, that communication will reflect the moral elevation, the eloquence of that spirit, and vice
Thank
versa.
you.
If it's very brute, a very ignorant spirit with a very limited lexicon or a very poor lexicon provides a message, that message will reflect the lack of intellectual and moral qualities of that spirit as well. Um, just like us ourselves, we have developed a little bit more skills in one field than the other, or you like some things more than others. Some of us like arts more than exactly sciences. Some likes more social sciences than physical sciences. So, and those who like physical sciences, some like biology more than physics. And those who like physics, some likes more thermodynamic than mechanics. So even when we break down things and we see that people, we have a tendency to be more likely to follow one path, to like one side of more specific. And if that happens to us while incarnate, why would that be different when you live behind this physical body? It'd be very much the same. One of the always left the finally was left the lower zone taken back to Nosula. He gravitated towards the area of hospital because that's what he naturally gravitated. He's a medical doctor on a previous incarnation. He actually wants to be a medical doctor in the spiritual world. They realized no, he had to start by washing the floors in the hospital first over there. And he did so. But he already gravitated towards that direction. He didn't go towards the area that use, let's say, how does the buses and the cars they work in the spiritual world? Well, naturally, is a curiosity. Naturally, he was curious about that, but his field of work, where he would put his effort and learning and helping at the same time, was what he is attracted to was more the field of medicine. It's a very natural thing, right? And we see amongst the spirits that provide communication to us, let's see, Emmanuel seems to have taken the mission or the responsibility to further explain the gospel of Christ, to break down every single word. You get books of Emmanuel in which he takes one sentence, one single sentence, as most of his books, and put 1, 2 pages on one single sentence of the words of Christ to really break down even the commas in that statement of Christ. We see Joan Evangelist that have followed the path of psychology much more. She was much more into the field of psychology. And then you go forth and so on, and you see that we will have a tendency to gravitate towards our likings or perhaps towards what we are good at. In reality, I mean, if I know that I'm better doing A, why should I look to do B? I should still trying to develop the skills of doing B, but there is a natural tendency for me to try to work in the field of A because that's where I feel more comfortable, right? Now, because I could make a very big parenthesis, very important for us to notice here that we're dealing with spirits that were not yet highly evolved spirits. So amongst us, amongst André Luiz, kind of spirits, we will be much better at one thing than another. But as we progress, as we get in a higher level of progress, we start to blend a lot more. Let's assume a pyramid has the apex is one single point. And let's assume that that single point is perfection. All those spheres who are in that single point, that apex of the pyramids, have to be very, very much alike than the ones, let's say, that at the bottom of the pyramid, that is that big base. There's tremendous amount of variation. So as we progress, we become more and more alike. It's still individualized. We still have some kind of preferences here and there. Okay, we don't become one. Okay, but how different can be perfection? If all of us here are perfect, intellectually, morally, how really different can we be from one another? We're extremely similar.
Yeah.
Right? So what Kardec's saying here is that this observation is very true for most of us. As we get at a higher level of spiritual evolution, we're basically really good. We're A plus in all fields of moral and intellectual teachings. We are A plus in all the social sciences, all the physical sciences, all this. We got it all. So that will not really apply for us. Now, we may take a mission, accept a mission on doing something another. So maybe Emmanuel could do psychology, maybe Joanna de Angelis could do the part of the gospel, but perhaps Christ or the work, I would say Christ, I imagine it was Jesus Christ, say, hey, Emmanuel, I wanted to do this, Joanna wanted to do that, no problem. But they got it, they can do anything. And each one receives a mission to do something. They can do either way, they are all the way up there as evolved spirits, which personally I think they are. Okay. Now, what about mediums? We see in mediumship meetings, and I'm sure that anyone who has done it for a while and is observant, we observe that mediums have a tendency to receive a certain kind of spirits. Even if it's suffering spirits, people suffer, we spirits, we suffer for different reasons, we suffer in different ways, right? We are suffering, but our suffering is different. And there are mediums that are more likely to receive this or that kind of suffering spirits. We don't need to give names because it would be actually unfair, but anyone who participates will see that happens. Because mediums also have integrated upon their makeup as moral individual spirits that they will gravitate towards one or another thing. Now, the caveat is that those mediums may not even recognize that of themselves, but the spirits, the workers of the house, they are able to recognize that. So perhaps the medium is more likely to be able to assist, to provide to be a better instrument for a suffering spirit of, let's say, of physical-like pain. I'm saying a physical-like pain because it's not really physical, right? The spirit coming complaining of severe pain on the chest, severe pain on the leg, or the cut off my legs, and those things like that. There will be a medium that is better suited to assist, to to be an instrument for those kind of spirits than others who perhaps are better of dealing with spirit suffering, the moral aching of attachment. The one who's extremely attached, they know they are ill, the illnesses of the soul is attachment. There might be a medium who is better suited to be an instrument for those spirits. And maybe that medium, him or herself, are not able to recognize, but the spirits in the spiritual world have a much greater, better vision of the pet spirit, are able to perceive things that that medium cannot perceive him or herself. I think that's very important. Question, comments? Now again, a better instrument, okay? Let's say that amongst a group where they have 5, 6 available mediums, the spirit, the workers of the house may be able to be selective, but maybe situations that, that's what we have available, that's what we have to use, that's what will be used. All right, makes sense?
Yeah.
Okay.
Carol has a question.
Yeah, hi. Yeah, thank you. Elmo, I was just wondering whether, on our side, the mediums, when they transition, will they become perhaps part of the team in the spirit realm who will assist the mentors or the benefactors? Because they have that fluidity, at least here. Would they also have it in the spirit world?
If they'll choose to continue to work in the leadership meetings now from the other side.
Yes, correct. Would they be part of either assisting the mentors or assisting the benefactors in the process?
I think it's very likely that the possibility is there, very likely for mediums or workers or leadership meetings who really like what they do, who really enjoy this kind of work, who will seek the opportunity to continue to do their work. Yes, why not? I don't think it's a sure thing. Perhaps the medium who is doing tremendous, beautiful work in mediumship here in the spiritual world, once they transition, they will have other tasks to do. They have to deal with other issues before they can embrace this task. But yeah, I think someone just like Andrea Luiz, who left the spiritual world as a medical doctor, and up in the spiritual world, still with a medical doc kind of mind, a worker, a servant in the spiritism, in the leadership mirrors, may transit, go back there, and continue that state of mind. And I would think it would be a good asset for that group if that spirit continue to work in that field.
Oh, thank you, Elmo.
One thing that I have to remember, just talking about going back to the spiritual world, is that I, Elmo, only know and can only answer for Elmo. But I know that I am a lot more than Elmo. And perhaps once I discarnate from here, once I go back to the spiritual world, there will be another personality of the eternal spirit playing the role of Elmo that will lead me to do something else completely different. It's also very likely or possible.
Thank you, Elmo. I appreciate it.
We continue, Amo.
Please.
Okay. Let us make a comparison. A very skillful musician has several violins at his disposal, which to the ordinary person all appear to be good instruments, but among which the consummate artist can tell a big difference, perceiving extremely delicate nuances that will enable him to choose some and reject others. Nuances that he perceives by intuition without being able to define them. The same applies to mediums. Despite the equality of their state as a mediumistic potency, a spirit will nevertheless prefer one over another according to the type of communications it wishes to transmit. As a result, we see, for example, mediums under the influence of a spirit who writes admirable poetry, even though they themselves have never been able to make verse in their ordinary state. Others, on the contrary, are normally poets, but as mediums, they only write prose in spite of the desire to write poems. The same happens with paintings, music, etc. There are mediums who, without possessing scientific knowledge, are most capable of receiving communications of this nature. Others are more skillful at historical studies. Others more easily serve as interpreters for moralist spirits. In a word, whatever the medium's flexibility may be, the communications he or she receives most generally have a special stamp. Furthermore, there are those who never leave a determined circle of ideas, and when they try to do so, they only receive incomplete, laconic, and often erroneous communications. Besides the issue of aptitudes, spirits also prefer to communicate through this or that medium according to the affinity between them. Thus, in spite of an obvious similarity of conditions, the same spirit will be more explicit through certain mediums solely because they are better suited to it.
Okay, so as I said before, I keep coming back to it because I think it's just amazing that people who understand coffee say there are 600 different flavors of coffee.
Yeah.
How many amongst us are here are able to differentiate? You know, if we put, I don't know, 30 different cups of coffee, each one of them with a different flavor out of the 600, how many of us will be able to distinguish to say, yeah, indeed, this is different from this different to that? It's going to come to a point to say, yeah, I taste no difference. You know, we may be able to say that one is sour, the one is bitter, the one is that, but being able to really differentiate 600, even 30, you have to be a connoisseur. You have to know the thing. Same thing with the violinist who's going to pick up a violin. If he's an average guy who just play a violin, it's maybe pick up any violin and play, but a more scholar, a better trained violinist may be more picky and may be able to distinguish nuances on each violin, that you may reject one and accept another and prefer a third one, yet based on things that that individual as an expert on the field are able to notice things that we are not able to do so, right? Perhaps when that expert violin play one and another, will you be able to feel a difference, but you'll be able to explain that?
Mm.
We don't have the know-how even to explain the nuances that perhaps we can feel, we can hear that difference, but we cannot explain it. Okay. So among the spirits also, if mediums are an instrument at the hand of the spirits, and that's what a good medium is, is the one who is able to be as neutral as possible to be the better possible instrument. There are some that are more suitable for this or that spirit, for those little nuances, or perhaps previous experiences and previous reincarnation, perhaps to have developed some skills that are not being utilized in this reincarnation. Very often in the outset, we use the example of Mozart, perhaps have one reincarnation in which he will not deal with music. For whatever reasons, he will not have the opportunity, he'll not going to put a hand on an instrument. But would you say that Mozart have the spirit that played the role of Mozart, have lost the ability of create, of being a musician that spirit is? That would be unfair to that spirit, and it would be unfair to us because we lost the opportunity to have a great person to provide us tremendous amount of pleasure with his music. And we say that if I conquer to my own work, now it's mine, not even God will take it away from us, right? So even if the spirit who plays the role of Mozart comes to a reincarnation, which that spirit will not deal with music, it is still a spirit who is extremely good with music. I'm not going to use this incarnation for whatever reason. Of course, for good reason. But it still has the great ability. And let's assume that that spirit, in that reincarnation where it's not dealing with music, is a medium and is working a mediumship meeting. And if among 4 or 5 mediums over there in that mediumship meeting, they need one of the medium who is better able at being an instrument at the hand of a spirit musician who wants to write some notes, who would that spirit pick? Certainly it's not going to be me. It'll be a waste of a good talent on the spiritual world in my hand because I cannot do it. But in the spiritual world, we recognize that spirit, that medium, playing a role of someone who is just a bus driver, in reality, it's Mozart of previous incarnation. And that's the one that I'm going to pick. That's one who has the necessary qualities for me to use to write some musical notations, or to write something in architecture. Architecture and in music is extremely correlated. Individuals who are very good with music are usually very good with architecture as well, and vice versa. So there is this quality of the medium that may be noticeable to us incarnate or may not, but it's definitely noticeable to those in the spiritual world. Beyond that, there is degrees of pure affinity in terms of affection, in terms of likeness. Okay, to complicate things, let's say that spirit who is a great musician could probably be a good instrument for music, is also somehow racist, does not like blacks. And the spirit is a musician who is there to provide some musical notations, identifies him or herself as black. It already create a difficulty for the approximation of those two instruments, those two perispirits. It already creates a difficulty for that medium to be a good instrument for that particular spirit. There is a lack of affinity there, more on the personal level, so to say. Even if they both have the affinity towards the music, there is other factors that makes that approximation more difficult. So there is the affinity in different levels. and which makes the work of the workers in the spiritual world in the leadership community very important to create that match that provides the best possible match spirit and medium for the assistance of the spirit in case of rescue mediums, of rescue mediumships, and for the assistance of us in a more eloquent and provide a message to us. Okay? Questions? Comments?
Yelmo,
Yeah.
how much attention should a medium pay in the kind of spirits?
How much what?
How much attention, meaning, oh, I'm receiving this kind of spirits, I'm not receiving that kind of spirits. I understand that, the meaning is just a tool and try to interfere uh, the less possible way. But also from what we're studying here, the spirits choose by order of affinity, which matches best. So how much attention should a medium should be paying to better him or herself in terms of studies and moral and everything else?
The medium, the workers doing the vibration, doing the dialogue, should pay attention 150% of how much one is preparing themselves to do the work that they apply themselves to do. We should be very careful and pay all the attention possible on how can I better myself to do whatever work I'm doing that meeting, as the medium, as a dialoguer, as the providing the vibrations, as doing the initial or the final player, as giving passes. In general, all of us should pay 150%. How much should a medium be concerned with what kind of needs he or she is receiving? Zero. Because again, a good instrument is a good instrument. It's as neutral as possible. I'm preparing myself to do the best that I can, and I trust that the spirits of the spiritual workers of the house will create the best possible match of me as an instrument to assist a needy spirit, or me as a medium to receive a more elevated spirit to provide a message to the group and to everyone else. Is that your question?
Yeah, because because sometimes it's hard to make a question without uh, giving names. So let's say that, because what I would imagine, it's people, I think in any area in your life you are trying to develop and better yourself, you pick someone that you think that you admire and they think they're doing a good job. Let's say that, let's put like Divaldo, Chico, whoever you work with, and then you see the range of the spirits that they work with. They work from the simple and ignorant, and with the nasty ones, with the elevated spirits, they go for all the ranges. So from what we study, it's because their knowledge and their moral evolvement, and they are able to deal with all those kind of spirits. Since a medium that is trying to develop him or herself, he might end up not working with that range. So could one assume that that's just the line of work that I'm doing? It has nothing to do with me uh, uh, improving this on that area, or in order for me to expand that range, it's everything on me?
No, it's not everything on you. You prepare yourself to be the best instrument, to be as neutral as possible, to be the best voice for the spirit, to be the best pencil at the hand of the spirit, okay, as neutral as possible. And the rest is not there up to you anymore. Because again, as much as you know yourself, as much as you do the exercise of introspection, analysis, and evaluation of yourself, you can only know yourself as Renato. Okay, being realistic. If you're gonna throw those who can go and visit themselves and expand, yeah, I know in the east in the Eastern culture, the people will go into trances and figure things out of themselves, but in a more realistic, more normal thing. Uh, to get to know myself as only Elmo is hard enough. Not even going to cogitate of knowing myself as a spirit that understand the eternal spirit beyond Elmo. I have no way of doing that. So most of us will fall in this category because I'm average and I'm not putting us all as average individuals. Okay. Even with my best effort of knowing myself, I don't think I'm able to really be realistic and say how good of a medium I would be in this or that field, how good of a medium to deal with this or that kind of spirits. The spiritual workers of the house are much better suited to have that answer than we ourselves. So there's something that I don't think a medium should be concerned. And then there is all the other factors. Again, the spirits use what they have available. So let's say that in a leadership meeting with 10 mediums, you have 10 possibilities. The spiritual workers can select for this or that task one or another medium. But if that mediumship there is 3 mediums, you don't have that much selection. You gotta use what you have. And they you do the best with the instrument they have, and you do your best as the instrument that you are.
Thank you.
So, and let's assume again in that mediumship meter is five mediums, and there is a very near spirit who would really benefit um, of a communication, of a dialogue. But another 5 is exactly what would be the best suited for that spirit. What you're gonna do? You're gonna use the second best. You're gonna use what you have. And that's not a fault of none of those 5 mediums. It's just what they are. It's just what they have to offer. And again, even though we do have a tendency to aim at higher goals of be as good as X or Y or Z, X and Y and Z perhaps start as we did. We are on the very first steps of a very long stairs that they are a mile away ahead of us already. You cannot jump to be like X or Y and Z. We need to go step by step, and getting there step by step, doing the best that I can do now, preparing myself to the best that I can serve now. Okay,
Okay, I'll continue.
please.
186. It would be wrong to expect to receive good kinds of communications of every variety just because we have a good writing medium at our disposal. The first condition is undoubtedly to be sure about the source of the communications, which means the qualities of the spirit who transmit them. However, we must no less surmise the qualities of the mediumistic instrument offered to the spirit. We must therefore study the nature of the medium as well as that of the spirit, because they are both essential elements for a satisfactory result. There is, however, a third element that is equally important: the intent, the inner thought, and the degree of praiseworthiness of whoever interrogates the spirit. This is easy to understand. In order for a communication to be a good one, it must come from a good spirit. In order for such a good spirit to be able to transmit it, it must have a good instrument at its disposal. In order for it to want to transmit it, the objective must suit it. The spirit who reads the thought surmises whether the proposed question deserves a serious response and whether the person who formulates it is worthy of a response. If not, it does not waste time sowing seeds among the stones. That is when frivolous and mocking spirits take action because, since they are little concerned about the truth, they do not analyze the subject as they should and are generally as little scrupulous about the means as about the ends. Let us now summarize the principal kinds of mediumship in the form of a sort of synodic table comprised of those that have already been described in the preceding chapters, indicating the paragraph numbers in which they are treated in more detail. We have grouped the different mediumistic varieties according to the similarities of cause and effect, but this classification is in no way absolute. Some are found quite often, others, to the contrary, are rare and even exceptional, a fact which we have been careful to point out. These latter indications were all supplied by the spirits who, furthermore, reviewed this table with particular care and completed with several observations and new categories, so that we may say that it is now entirely their own work. When we have deemed it worthwhile, we have highlighted the textual observations by using quotation marks. Most of them are by Eratus and Socrates.
Okay.
Mhm.
I like the way Kardec put these three elements that are responsible for the end result of a mediumistic phenomena. One, the telephone rings from there to here, not from here to there. So everything starts with the spirit. And the quality of the message in its moral content, and its intellectual content, is derived from the moral and the intellectual qualities or disqualities of that spirit.
Here's the top search result.
So one, it always starts with the spirit. Two, the medium. We have heard many times a medium reading a psychography that the medium received. Very beautiful, very eloquent. Can't imagine it could be any better. And the medium will say, it's what I could get. It was so much better. It was so much greater, but I don't have the ability of passing the whole thing. This is what I was able to get. So even a well-developed, well-prepared medium may not have enough development to bring all, let's say, all the beauty or all the value of a message just because it doesn't have it. Okay, so if a great painter mentalizes, a painting, a picture, the scenario, everything's over there, but it doesn't have the proper colors for that painting, it will not end up being as absolutely beautiful as that painter mentalized. But will be the best that he can do with the colors of painting colors that was placed in his hand or her hand. It will not say, oh no, if I don't have what I need, I'm not gonna do it. You do that in surgery. You schedule surgery. If you don't have, if the surgeon don't have all the instruments that he needs, he will cancel the surgery because he's not gonna take a chance with somebody's life, right? But to produce a painting, to produce a message, and again, we received as the receiver of that message, and when it's read to us, say, God, what could be missing on this? How much better could it actually have been? Is even to even doubt that would be that great. But we don't know. Only that person who interacted with that spirit to be able to tell that, right? So the second factor is the medium, right? Again, if a musician spirit wants to write a little music note, if you have someone who have the play of Mozart available, good. He cannot use Elmo. They have to cancel. Elmo cannot provide. But perhaps among the group, they have someone else with some music ability, not as great as Mozart, but not as poor as Elmo. And maybe use what they have available for them. So the second fact is the medium, and the third factor that it's also a common denominator for just about everything that is successful is the want, the intent, the desire. What is my personal effort to do my absolute best to be the best instrument, regardless of what I know that I have, and regardless of the things that I know that I don't have, and regardless of the things that I may have, but I don't know that I have, or if I don't have. Again, I only know Elmo, but I know that I am a lot more than Elmo. The things that I know that Elmo has, things that I know that Elmo does not have, and there are things that I know that although Elmo does not have, the Eternal Spirit playing the role of Elmo has. What is my intent, my best effort to put out there everything that I have that is good in that work, in that communication? That will, when those three elements are the highest, of course, the result will be the highest. But even if that medium has all the great abilities, if the intent is not really there, if that day in that meeting it happens, you'll just have a horrible day and we are not able to shake it off by the time of the meeting. There's the importance of try to live your outside life outside, try to do the best to completely decompress yourself before you get ready for the work. But we are humans. Maybe one day you're not able to do it. So maybe even being a very good instrument, that day it's not there. The intent is not there. The true intent, the true want is not really there. Our mind is really bothered with something else, and it happens. So the third factor is, if not completely missing, at least it's not there 100% as it should. And again, we are medium. You're humans. It may happen to everyone and anyone. more you know the quality of the spirit, and you only know the quality of spirit by making a reasonable analysis of what you receive from that spirit. Now, the spirit will declare him or herself through its choice of words, to its lexicon, to the moral content, the ability to say what's necessary using the necessary amount of words. Some spirits will give a message and incarnate and discarnate, and fill it up 6, 7 pages of beautiful words, and when you try to find the message, you find nothing. And in the other side, you get a spirit who put 2, 3 sentences together, and is enough for you to analyze and study those 3 sentences for an hour. So rich in content. The more elevated spirit, they have this ability to say so much with so little words. They're very frugal with words, would make some kind of difference for us, but you have to elevate ourselves intellectually. And that is part of their job, to push us to move forward, to elevate ourselves, both morally and intellectually. And then, because that goes on, like, saying that now the next part of our reading over here is a synopsis of a table of the variety of mediums, which is basically a recap of everything that is seen so far. And he may use some sentences that comes primarily from Erastus and Socrates. And you see here another example where Erastus seems to be the one who was chosen to deal with mediumship during the as part of the spirits responsible for the codification, the one who took a responsibility to deal with mediumship, because you see a lot of his works in this book. I'm not going to move off. It's 37. We have 5 minutes left. Any comments? Any questions?
Yeah. Well,
Mm-hmm.
do you think? No, better. Let me rephrase. What's your take on language, on the development of the mediumship? You think is a barrier? You think because I've spoke with mediums that for example they are able to do a psychography but only on their native language, but we also have a case that mediums do psychophony in foreign language for them, at least on this life. But since we are here, we pretty much do everything, at least in our center, we do in English. Do you think that makes a little bit harder to develop that, since we don't, our vocabulary is kind of a limit, or you think is an excuse? What's your take on it?
Definitely not skills. Definitely it is another stressor, another point that makes it more difficult. Something that is hard for us to understand, but in general, the medium receives the thought of the spirit and writes down that thought. Thought doesn't really necessarily have a language, which is very hard for us to think in this term. Thought is a very abstracted, but thought is energy, right? So it doesn't necessarily has a language. We may send thoughts of love, of consolation to someone who is suffering another part of this world, that does not speak none of the language that we speak, maybe in Spanish, Portuguese, and in English, and maybe someone in Bangladesh, that someone is in Bangladesh will receive our thoughts of affection, of consolation, of renewed faith, without words, but you receive that the energy of consolation. So the medium also receives the thought and has to put that thought in words. Okay, a very eloquent thought will require a very eloquent lexicon, and perhaps it's difficult for the medium to bring up those words. Okay, I've heard the word that come to me was such and such. I don't even know how to spell this word. I don't even know if this is a word, because we have our limitations with our foreign language. It makes it more difficult, and that is the importance of writing the thoughts to the best of our ability, and then review it as soon as possible. It's still nice and warm, hot from the oven, so we can recap things easily, and together put a better word, a better feeling word here and here, there and there. But yeah, it's definitely makes more difficult, I would say, for someone who is more comfortable in Portuguese to write that message in Portuguese, not receiving the message, but writing the message. It is an obstacle to write in a foreign language that most of us does not have a complete control of it.
And for example, in cases, I understand that it's very hard to bring Chico, but he does it all. That was writing different language fluently, like with, I mean, like I'm not gonna say no effort. So that is it was like a kind of a more of a mechanic thing happening, or was really him that was able to do it, translate that on to put on paper.
I'd imagine the case of Chico that again you agree to make comparison with Chico is even unfair. There was Shanaglasy that he does have that language in his memory bank, so to say, as the same spirit, someone who had already conquered the ability to write in that language, is just not using in this incarnation. Could it be a mechanical phenomenon as well? Because Chico could do that also, it could have. But I would say most likely was intelligent phenomena, and he was retrieving abilities that he has and that he was not using in that specific reincarnation. And most of us will have it. And now imagine if you are now living in the new world, the so-called new world, that's only been here since what? the 1500s, right? And the old world has been there thousands and thousands and thousands of years before. It's very likely that we had experienced it other languages that we don't know that we have, but it's there in our memory bank, so to say. So any medium of psychography could, I don't know, perhaps write a message in Arabic. Maybe I've spent some reincarnations in the Arabic world and it's not aware of it.
Thank you.
Okay. So we continue next week. Let's make our final prayer, please.
Infinite Creator, Supreme Intelligence, all our helpers, our guides, guardian angels, those who are inspiring us to receive the messages, to bring our attention to a sublime awareness of what we have received this evening. We are grateful to have a deeper understanding of the vast variety of mediumship of which we are studying currently. We are grateful to know that this has been discussed and in an in-depth way for us to go deeper in our studies. We are grateful to our spiritual benefactors, to the mentors, the good spirits who are assisting us to receive these blessings. May we receive this grace, this love, this light, this healing within us, and may we receive the love, light, and peace of Christ within us to go forward during the week, to share with others this blessing, that others may receive a greater healing, greater knowledge as we have. May we continue throughout the week with our prayers, with our studies, with our mindfulness, and we know that we are never alone. There is assistance as we ask and as we do our part. May we serve others. May we be more compassionate. May we listen more intently. And may we be of service. Charity is the key. As we close this meeting this evening, we are grateful to those who are with us, those who are receiving the teachings, those who are presenting the teachings, and our guides who are with us. We close now and humbly ask for the love, light, and peace of Christ. And we ask for safety and protection to go forth to family, friends, loved ones, and coworkers. We are truly blessed, and may we continue throughout the week to be of service. We close this meeting now and remind ourselves to be light workers, beacons of light. Go forth now in peace. So be it.